I've seen people questioning whether or not the SSO story will ever end. I've thought a lot about this and I feel like that's a very hard question to answer. But I'm gonna give it a try anyway. So, when we talk about the end of the story, most people will probably think of the main story. You know, the whole story about the Soul Riders, Dark Core, and Garnock and all. For many years, the main goal here was to save Anne from Pandoria. Now that that's done, we're just waiting around for the final showdown. But we don't know how to get there. The road will probably be long and we'll need a lot of preparations and training before we can get started on the mission to defeat Garnock. The story will also need to build up for it over time. Honestly, I feel like saving Anne was just an introduction to the story. The real action starts now. Dark Core is just getting ready to face us and it's time for us to start planning our defense and a counterattack. It's gonna be a long process, and remember, we need to get rid of Dark Core first, and then we can get started on Garnock. I found this article from 2017 where the reporter met Fredrik Gunnarsson at the Star Stable headquarters. They said how the most compelling things about Star Stable had yet to occur, and they proceeded to pull out what they describe as the Star Stable brand Bible. What they describe here makes it sound like this story is something entirely else, much larger than we imagine. And in case you wonder if this article is even legit, there's this one paragraph that talks about what they had in store, and all of these things are now happening. Updated graphics, expanding world, merch, and even new games! So I think we can safely say that we still have a long way to go on the main story. Probably many years. Luckily though, Star Stable is still running pretty strong, and as the #1 game in its genre, it's unlikely to end anytime soon. We still have years of good content ahead of us, and as long as they keep releasing story quests, I'm sure we will be able to reach the end eventually. Now, in response to this, some people are also questioning what will happen after the main story. And that's the thing. Even if we do see the end of the main story, there will always be other quest lines. There will always be NPCs needing our help, and there will always be new places to explore. Even though Garnock has been defeated, everyday life in Jorvik can still be pretty interesting. Just imagine all the rivalries between riding clubs, James's future business ideas, random love stories, and helping Lisa out on tour. Maybe there's a new mystery in Jorvik. Maybe there's a thief among us. Or maybe someone's gone missing, like Evelyn Goldspur. In other words, we will never run out of content in SSO. I mean, the possibilities are endless. But what about the full map of Jorvik? Will we ever unlock the entire island? Well, that really depends. You see, I've noticed that they only mention areas that are important in the current story. The only unreleased areas right now that we know are important are Cape Point and Pine Hill, or as is referred to on this map, Winter Valley. Of course, there's also Devil's Gap and Ashland or Crate of Yore, but besides that, the main story pretty much sticks to already unlocked areas. That means that the only thing we know for sure at this point is that the map will expand to those areas because the story requires it. Meanwhile, the rest of Jorvik is pretty much only referred to as Eastern and Northern Jorvik because they are currently not important. This way, after the main story is done, the team is free to do whatever they want with the remaining parts of Jorvik. Just to clarify, this does not mean that we will need to wait for the end of the main story to see other parts of the map. It just means that they will have the freedom to do whatever they want when they want it. And honestly, it's probably the best for us too. Just imagine if they told us about all the areas of Jorvik, made them seem important, and we were promised to have it all. And then suddenly one day, the game has to shut down and we never got the answers we wanted. The story would never feel complete because we never got to unlock and explore it all. Instead of this, they restrict themselves and the players to areas that they know they will be able to release, So if they have to wrap up the story, we haven't missed out on anything. As long as the rest of Jorvik is blank, there is nothing to miss out on, which is for the better. So how long will it take them to release the rest of the map anyway? Well, based on the time it's taken to release areas so far, probably somewhere between 20 and 50 years. Now, okay, calm down. They might be able to produce areas more efficiently in the future, but I think they'd rather work harder on other things or spend more time on the areas they do release. That's because new areas is probably the most hyped up thing in the game, and it's something that keeps a lot of people playing. If they ever finish the map, a lot of people will lose interest in the game because they feel like there's nothing more to explore. So the best thing for the team would be to stretch out the release of new areas to keep us on edge, and to ensure that they always have more content to give us. For example, just look at how they split up Wildwoods in parts. We were excited for the first part and we're still excited for the next one. But if they had released it in one part, like they've done with previous areas, we would already have explored everything and grown bored. The hype would be non-existent. And it's the same with the rest of Jorvik. Even if they can release bigger areas, and even if they can release them faster, the best would be to stretch it out. But hey, look on the bright side. Imagine the quality of those areas. So what exactly is the end of the SSO story? If they can keep releasing content in all eternity, does that mean that the story is endless? Well, yes, but also no. The team can indeed produce content in all eternity, and I believe they have plans for several years at a time. However, there is one thing they're dependent on, and that is us. One day, a lot of us might not play SSO anymore, and it might not appeal to new players. If we can't provide Star Stable with the resources they need, they won't be able to give us new content. And because it's an online game, they can't just leave it as it is either, because someone has to maintain the servers and all, and there's a lot of costs involved in that. So the game either continues or it's shut down. Expanding the world to its full potential would only be naive at this point. Realistically, they have no idea how long SSO will last, and neither do we. They can only plan content so and so far ahead in time, so nobody really knows what happens in, say, 10 years. This is why they don't talk about the full map, and this is why we don't know how much of it will be accessible in the future. It's a way for them to last as long as possible, but still be able to finish things off in a satisfying way when the end is near. Because the end of the SSO story is the end of SSO itself. Honestly, I'm fairly sure we'll see the end of the storylines in the game, but I just don't think the SSO will live to see the full map. And even if it does, a lot of us might not even play anymore when the time comes. So, to conclude, as long as things are going well in the game, we will keep getting more content and more areas, but if not, they will find a way to wrap it up as it is. If we're still around when the time comes, we will see the end of the story, but the map, on the other hand, will probably never be complete. That's what I think anyway. You can leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree, and tell me how you think they will go about this. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, if you did, I'll see you around. Bye!